So we got a bunch of followers, new followers from Instagram. Our Instagram is loaded with reposts of things that I find really interesting.
Yeah.
And some of them have gone semi-viral, and we've gotten a lot of followers. So a lot of them might not know why the heck we're talking about this kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay. And the reason we're talking about this stuff, I might actually clip this and put it on the front end. You know, the reason we're talking about this kind of stuff is because even though we find the conspiracies and the alien topics and all of those very interesting, we're all Christian.
Yeah.
And we literally believe that there is a God outside of all of reality and outside of all dimensionality, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, that created all of these layers, that entered into our dimension as Jesus, died on the cross to forgive human sin, save us. We actually believe that. Now, with that worldview and framework in mind, we're also trying to understand what we're posting on our Instagram,
Right.
all the conspiracy theories, all the alien stuff, all the stuff that's actually going on. We're trying to interpret through our Christian worldview because we're seeing it and it's affecting us just as much as it is somebody that doesn't believe the things we do about Jesus and God, right?
Yeah. Well said.
Okay, sorry. I had to breathe.
Yeah, no,
so that's why
great.
we're talking about this stuff. And it leads into conversations like this,
Yeah.
right? Where
It just gets fun.
where we don't only talk about aliens and conspiracies,
Yeah.
those are coming, but where we talk about how we understand the reality around us and how God's interacting in this reality.
Man, it's so good to see you guys. Well,
Dude,
more
it's
you
been-
can,
it's
more,
been
more
a
you can, because
while.
I've seen Ben a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that. Just kidding. Just kidding.
God, I don't know how to make you. Oh, here you go.
Is it?
Okay, now- you guys look
we going
good.
live?
Oh, you guys
live?
look so.
Hey, is it
cute.
possible to turn myself down just a little bit in my headphones?
No.
Okay.
I love your headphones, man. Okay, why do I look like crap?
I feel like this fuzz right here should be like that was way too late.
It was nothing.
Bro, what am I doing with my background, man? I gotta do something. It's so ghetto.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
Like,
it's so bad.
Hey, just get your dog and like glue her to the wall. Anything would be better.
but put like
Man.
a captain's, like a sailor's hat, and then a pipe, and then some neon.
I don't have a pipe. One of my closest friends won't give me a pipe. He gave me one a long time ago, but
Nothing
I
broke,
need a new
Ben.
pipe.
I'm telling my wife.
What just happened?
Nothing broke.
Cameron's
We're good.
breaking
We're good.
stuff
I
in
got
my-
big,
Totally missed
big elbows.
She got excited.
Belbos.
Belbows. Wow.
So,
Belbo bag.
look,
freaking
Ben, do
Florida.
you have a collared shirt on tonight, Ben? Do you have a collar? Is he wearing a collar?
Dude.
I went fancy.
Oh my goodness!
I went fancy.
Should I go change really quick?
No. Yeah. No. Change just your underwear.
You just want me to put underwear on? That's okay. Enough underwear talk. Welcome to Menace the Menace with your hosts, Mr. Ben, Mr. Cam, and Mr. Dennis, drinking High Moon.
High Noon.
I know.
Sponsored by High
Sponsored
Noon
by
this evening.
High Noon, not High Moon.
2.6 calories of sugar.
Of sugar.
Mine's got 3. Best served cold. 2018 and 19. Copyright High Noon Spirit Company.
You know what it is? It's what
Go
the
with what
sun-
Jesus drinks.
It's what the sun sips.
You know,
The
you can't-
sun.
What are you talking about?
It says right here.
Sun sips. Oh, you're not in focus.
that's
There.
weird.
Oh, you're not in focus. Oh, no, you're not in focus.
That could put you to sleep.
Hi, sponsored by
Don't
High
worry.
Noon.
He's
We
gonna
get
cut
paid
this out.
regardless. We get paid regardless.
That's good.
Thank you
That's
to our
good.
3 subscribers who are
Yeah.
joining us today, hopefully, and to many more in the future. Please remember to subscribe, share, comment, repost, DM us. What else? Write us letters. Come visit us if you're in Boise or in Jacksonville, Florida.
Give them your
And
address.
Give me your social too, man. Go ahead.
Absolutely. You guys can. I'm just here to help everybody. No, welcome to another night at Menace the Menace, where we're talking about what tonight, boys?
I
put you guys on the spot, didn't I?
He's put it on me, but he's the one who want to talk about determinism, Molinism, open theism.
Man,
Yeah.
all the isms. We're going
Ever
to
heard,
isms.
ever heard of those?
Isms. All right. No, I haven't. I think I've heard of them, but I have never used them in a sentence.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, so you tell us where we're starting and what they mean first for C
Well,
minus average students like me.
Well, Ben, you feel free to weigh in a lot of your opinions on this, but the general definition, and I will say, like, I'm not going to give like my perspective, but what the three perspectives are. Determinism would be that God determines everything from the beginning to the end of history is all caused and determined by him. There's nothing that happens outside of his doing, his will, his sovereignty, right?
Okay, so everything is done within his will.
Everything.
Is
Everything
it done
past,
by
present,
God?
future. Hey. Let's just go.
Sorry.
Let's, because we're going to go like,
No.
So let's do determinism, right?
Yeah.
How do we say it?
Determinism.
Okay.
You got it.
I think I
Proud
added
of
that. Illism, I think.
Determinalism.
That's what I did. Mine sounds better.
I like it.
Sounds more Christian. Okay. And then we go, it's God is over everything,
Yeah.
past, present, future,
Yeah.
sees all, knows all, determines all.
Yep.
That's why the word determinism. Right? Okay.
And to
Determines all.
answer-
That's a big one.
Yeah. So, and to quickly answer Ben's question without going on and on about it, he doesn't have to directly do it, but he's still determined that someone does it. So he's still the determining factor behind everything, even if, let's say, Satan, a classic example you could probably use to understand it is that God allowed Satan to do things to Job, right? Mm-hmm. You could say allowed, or you could say caused. It's a matter of where you fall theologically, but the argument really is about is there any sovereignty that can thwart God's sovereignty and God's will? Can any will stand against his? So if God is determined everything to happen, can someone alter what he is determined will happen? Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Open theism is the polar opposite. It would be that God doesn't know the future, that he actually learns and retains information. And where it gets kind of tricky is when you kind of rationalize how God knows everything, because everyone would say God's omniscient, probably
Right.
besides the open theist. And I would say, I don't know where that stands, but I would kind of categorize that. That can get very heretical because you're saying God is learning new information, and the Bible
Right.
clearly teaches he's omniscient. He knows everything.
Yeah.
So, but it's a way that they would rationalize certain texts or certain situations in life. The Holocaust, like really bad things that happen, like God didn't foresee this, but he tells us what to do with it in the time being, or he didn't at one point and he looked through history down the scope of time and saw and learned what would come about. Do you see what I'm saying? See how it gets kind of tricky?
Yeah, I need a lot of Bible verses for that. Okay, what's the third one?
The third one's Molinism, which Ben and I had a conversation.
I swear I wanted to have that sound effect
That's all I thought
Powers.
for
about.
tonight.
Austin Powers, dude.
But I literally didn't because I'm like, I'm just going to keep using it all night.
It's okay, I'll just say it all night.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so the other one, Molinism, would be, and I don't know the history of Molinism. I'm not very educated in this field, but anybody who knows what Molinism is more thoroughly welcome to chime in,
Yes,
message
please.
us, whatever.
Yeah,
But
tell us
I
how
would say
stupid we are.
the definition, kind of just real quick snapshot or rapid fire definition, would be God kind of looks through the infinite possibilities of history and chooses the one that lines up mostly with what his will already is, with what pleases him. Kind of like the multiverse, right?
Hey.
Whoa, I'm just saying.
Be
Similar
cool, bro.
concept. That's a way that someone could kind of understand how that operates. He would say he knows what his will is already. He says, if I give free creatures the full reign to do whatever they want and they do those things freely, what would bring about what I want to come about in history more than anything else? And that's the history that he is determined or authorized to exist. Does that make sense?
I need a lot of verses
It's
for
called
that
something
one too.
called middle knowledge. It's knowledge that's not yet existent and not unexistent either. It's kind of a middle of the road, hasn't happened, but it's a hypothetical reality, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, you explained it very, very well. And I think the more you explained it, the worse it got in my opinion.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I'm not a Molinist. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I just found out like this weekend, I think on Saturday we were talking, or no,
No, that was
last week a little
Thursday.
bit. Yeah. So we got together and we're chatting last Thursday, and I'm talking to him about some ideas I've got in my weird head, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Molinist." And
No,
I'm like,
no.
I'm like, hey, I'm like, no,
That's
I'm not. I don't even know what that is. And he's like, yeah, you are, because you believe da 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 da. And I'm like, bro, that's just what I believe. Like, I'm not this or that. You could say whatever.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I wasn't to make my intentions more clear, Ben. I wasn't trying to say you're a Molinist. I was just trying to say, oh, what you're explaining to me right now is Molinism. What you're saying about the multiverse, you were saying, hey, let's do an episode about this, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of like Molinism.
Okay, wait. So, now I need to hear what Ben was saying.
Okay, bro.
The
Are we going there now?
Oh, we're going.
We're not gonna get right there right now. But the reason this conversation came up, Dennis, for your, for context for you,
yes,
is because one of the episodes that I want to do is how I think the multiverse, which is like all the rage and in vogue right now in physics and in mathematics and all this stuff to kind of explain, because they're actually getting away from a lot of the concepts of Big Bang and things existing eternally. Yeah. They're kind of moving away from that because the physics are beyond that now. The math's beyond that.
It's not because of the physics. It's because social media is turning people on to understanding or like talking more. And the people are like, wait a second, we're being fooled by all this. And more people are talking about it. So now they're like, yeah, let's scoot over here and talk about multiverse now.
I mean, that's happening too, but those conversations are being backed by like facts and science and discoveries that are being made. Oh, sorry.
He doesn't like science, bro.
I know.
You gotta be careful.
I'm just anything that says, oh, we're going to backtrack on anything that they've been teaching and shoving down our throats for the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I get that.
To me is all bullshit. Like, it's like,
right.
There's a reason
that
you're doing this.
On that same page, the universe is now supposedly 80 billion years because of James Webb, because the telescope just found more light further out. Okay. The universe is bigger.
So much sense.
So what was it before? 20 billion?
40. I think it was 40. They've doubled it to like 80 billion.
Yeah.
So it's just
90?
like
they just 70.
They just keep kicking the can further.
Yeah, all of it's kind of like when that article. Did you hear about the article where they were saying the hottest day or something like that in the last like 1,200 years or something in record? And everyone's like, how could you possibly know that? Like, They didn't even start recording the climate, like tracking it for until like 100 years ago or something.
Yeah.
People are just getting paid to put models together that don't make any sense and that make us look dumb and then look so smart. They're getting paid for it.
Yeah. So anyway, the conversation came up because I was talking about how I want to do a episode on the multiverse, because that's all in, it's in vogue right now. It's all the rage. And it's a concept that a lot of scientists are talking about, physicists are talking about, as one possibility of explaining this reality. Because a lot of the things they're discovering, especially with like quantum mechanics, all that kind of stuff, is that the universe, they say, isn't locally real. And basically that means that it's kind of a shadow of a higher reality, something along those lines. And we could go into that deeper. We'll go into it in another episode. But
yeah, because I don't believe any of it.
What do you mean? Literally, as Christians, we believe that there's a whole other reality that affects this reality.
Right, but they're not tapping into it through technology. No way.
I would agree with Dennis here. Technology, I don't think, is what taps in. It's spiritual worship.
All spiritual,
that does.
Dude. Yes.
Even if technology is involved, which I think that's the silver lining between the two of you guys. I think it's.
I just broke Ben's
worship.
heart tonight. I broke Ben's heart.
No, I think we're just using different words to describe the same thing.
Sure.
To some degree, because realistically, if you guys use the word spiritual, because that's the word that's been written down in our books, in our ancient texts, since the beginning of writing, and it's just been referred to as spiritual. Now we could use different words.
Sure.
And it doesn't change the meaning, the result, the truth. It doesn't change it at all.
Not to backtrack a little bit, but I think actually I agree with you, Ben. Because here's why though. Because there's no such thing as neutrality even atheists would worship their version
Sure.
of who God is, even if it's themselves. Everybody is worshiping a God. Everyone says this is the moral ought, this is the standard, this is how men should live. And they would everybody, including Christians, would push their view on the rest of creation and say we're all supposed to conform to this image, whatever that image is. So I'd say that is worship, even if it's non-religious in the sense, it is absolutely spiritual worship.
No, that's a really, really great point.
So I think I take back what I said.
Nice. Welcome to
Not
my
all-
side.
not all the way
The
back.
dark side.
Not all the way back,
Just come on,
just
not all the way
kind of back.
The dark side.
Don't go into Ben's head because
No, I don't wanna
he
go
won't
there,
get
dude.
out. He won't get out, man. There's
Bro, I'm not even
no
out.
way out.
I'm still
I
in
know.
I'm
You're
stuck.
in there forever, dude.
I'm stuck.
I kind
Hey.
of sometimes want to visit though because it's kind of cool.
Oh, it's fun. It's
I'm
definitely
sure it
fun.
is. I have no
Okay,
doubt.
so the multiverse, which is being talked about right now, has all the rage, right? To me, makes a lot of sense. And I was telling him it makes a lot of sense. Not that there actually exists an infinite number of realities and universes out there, because in the multiverse, they literally believe every single decision in human history by every single human
Split off.
has split off and created an alternative timeline, an
Those
alternative
have
universe,
split
an
off.
alternative.
Right.
And in every single one of those, if I go like this or if I go like this, each of those created an alternative universe.
Yeah.
And it determines the rest of human history from every single minute decision
Well, yeah,
everywhere.
it's like in the Mandela effect.
So that gets into it too, alternative timelines.
Well, that's what they believe. That's why they would say. That's
Right.
why they would say it's real.
Right.
Is because of what you're talking about.
So to me, it makes sense that God, who is all knowing, okay, created the reality that we exist in, right? In a way that brought about the exact result he wanted from beginning of time to the end of time. Because he could have created this reality with any little difference and it would have resulted into something totally different down the line. Okay. Just like a bullet. If you're off by like a millimeter from the beginning, 1,000 yards down the way,
It's a train station.
it's a building away. It's way off. So God created everything from the beginning, knowing what all of the possibilities
It's Molinism.
could have ever been from every single human action, every single animal's action, every single leaf that falls a certain way, every single wave that hits the rocks a certain way and deteriorates the sand a certain way. Everything that he knew in his mind, the multiverse exists in God's mind, and he chose the exact reality to create, which brings about the results that he wants throughout all of time. That's what I believe.
So
And
the
I didn't
multiverse
know-
only
I
existed in
didn't-
his mind.
only existed in
Okay.
his mind, in his omniscience.
Right.
But the reality that he chose to create was the one that was to bring about the results he wanted. And the apex, the pinnacle of the results that he wanted has nothing to do with you, me,
right.
the leaves,
All
the
of
animals.
Jesus.
It was all
All
about
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The whole point of creation was for Jesus to come, Jesus to die, Jesus to resurrect, and to be glorified for eternity all the more, not only as creator, but also as savior.
Can I ask a question?
I would love for you to ask
Okay.
a question.
In a way, though, doesn't that mean that creation determines what happens? Because he only chose what creation would do as most pleasing to him.
Hold on. Say that
Therefore,
again.
Wouldn't that mean that creation itself, creatures,
Creation.
determine what God does? Because he only chose that because of what they would do, because it's most pleasing to him. So in a way, it's still determinism, but isn't it the inverse? It's determinism from free creatures.
I don't know. I feel
okay,
like
okay. Hang on.
Hey, hold on.
I'll clarify it for you. Do you understand what he's saying?
Not really.
So
I think I had one too many. High noon.
So-
You had like
So-
a quarter of one.
2.6%.
He had a quarter of one.
it's because he's wearing a
He
college
doesn't
shirt
drink
tonight.
much, people.
Still getting
We
paid.
don't really drink.
Still getting paid.
He
So-
actually dumped it out and he just put sparkling water in it too.
I just need an excuse to kill some time so I can
He
think
just
about
wants
an
to feel
answer.
cool, man.
He just wants to get a sponsor.
Yeah.
So, all right. So God saw all the different
Possibilities.
possibilities of creation
Yeah.
and
Based on what creatures would do.
destinies, based on what creatures would do, and he chose the one that he likes the most, or that glorifies him the most.
Right.
or his son the most.
That he could execute his will.
Yes.
He glorifies Christ.
But it's still creation that's making the choices. He's just choosing
what creation did.
What creation did.
So creation's the determiner.
See, that's where it changes
that's where it gets kind of
right?
messy at that point. Yeah.
Bro, why are you doing this to me?
Well, all I'm saying is go listen to some arguments about it.
I don't agree with that.
Why didn't you do this at the end? Why'd you do it right now in the beginning?
Listen, I don't agree with it.
I just asked the question.
I don't agree with that, but I think it's a really cool concept, but I don't agree with it. Though.
Yeah,
okay,
I agree with you.
So creation determines what God does?
Yeah. Let me give you an example. I want Ben to drink a high noon on
Sponsored by
High Noon on the 14th of August. Thank you. Wow. I'm like March 14th of August, right? 2023. Now, because it pleased me and it would glorify my intentions, but I didn't cause him to do it. Ben did it. So I chose the reality that he would do it. So in the result, he would be the determiner of what I chose because you did it in this reality.
Right.
At this time on this day.
Yeah, but
so you're determining my choices now.
Right. But based on the reality he creates, it brings
Does he create it?
Of course he creates it.
How does he create it?
Because he literally goes, exist, and that reality came into being.
Does he create the space for reality to exist, or does he create
bingo
the reality itself?
You did it. You got it, Dennis. That was good.
Does he create
you just jumped ahead, man.
For reality?
Did he create just like a space where the wills of creatures could just go at it, and then he would go, this one is cool and most pleasing to me? Or did he actually create the creatures, create history, create the things that would happen?
Oh, so you're saying, was he intentional?
Is it causative?
Yeah. What's the difference? What difference does that make?
Determinism or Molinism? That's
the
difference.
Okay, so then I guess in one of those scenarios, if he's intentionally creating the entities that will bring about those results, right?
Hold on, say that again. Sorry.
So if he's intentionally creating the reality with the beings that will bring about the results he wants, hold on. That's determinism, right?
No, because you're saying he's creating the creatures knowing what they'll do and let them freely do it. Determinism would be he causes all things. Mm-hmm. He causes it. He is the cause. Nothing can happen apart from God.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry. So it took us 5 minutes for me to understand what he's saying.
Dude, I mean, it's a complex thing.
Honestly, very complex.
I'll be honest with you, Ben. If you go look on YouTube about like full-on debates with very smart people.
And then I fell asleep.
Well, okay, but here, do you know what most of the argument is when the pushback comes? Huh. They're like, you don't understand the argument. You don't understand the position. So even these very, very smart guys who take a lot of time to study, when they're in the middle of debate, one of their opponents a lot of times will accuse them of going, hey, I don't think you actually understand the position.
Who's accusing who? Whom's accusing whom?
I'm saying in the debate. If you went to look up a debate, there'd be an opponent, and they'd each be accusing each other of being wrong about their position.
You know, master debaters.
Debaters.
Sorry, I had to do that one. Sorry, man.
Okay. So I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let me say this.
Say it.
So you're saying that the creation determines what God does. In what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, because God's only making his choice based on what you do, not based on what he's doing.
But that creation never existed. It was never real.
Not yet.
It was in the head of and in the omniscience of God.
Yeah.
Okay. So no, the creation doesn't make God do anything because the creation was never created. It was never real. Just because God knows everything about everything that could possibly ever exist doesn't mean that knowledge is making God make a decision. In my mind, it makes sense that just because God knows something, knows the outcome of something or the possible outcome of something, doesn't mean that knowledge causes him to act a certain way.
Then why wouldn't he choose a different one?
Why wouldn't he choose a different one?
Why wouldn't he choose a different one then? If it doesn't influence his decision?
Well, I don't think any of them were perfect. That's why he has to step into human existence. That's why he has to bring Christ in. That's why he has to do miracles. That's why he has to come down in human form and go meet with Abraham. That's why every time God has to step in, it's because none of them would have worked out without his intervention.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think it was reactionary, his stepping in, or was that his plan from the foundation of the world?
So was he reacting to the option?
Was Christ the plan from the beginning, or did he go, oh crap, Christ?
No, Christ was always the goal.
Okay,
Yes.
so then he didn't just step in because of decisions. His plan was Christ, and he brought that about a certain way throughout history. And we read about that in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's not because of anything people did. It's not because we failed.
It's not because we failed, but I think in
He
all
had to
options,
do it because we failed.
I think in all options within his mind, humans failed. Christ was the only way that anybody would ever be saved, ever.
Yeah,
I would agree.
everyone agrees that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're all on the same page on that.
Well, I'm on the same page that Christ is needed.
Okay.
Absolutely essential.
So Christ is needed because no matter what, whether God's doing it, right, making everything happen constantly, humans fail. Whether God sees what options are possible in this multiverse, okay, humans will sin. Nobody will ever be saved.
Yeah.
Christ is necessary in both of our perspectives.
Okay. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Right.
So my question is, what's the difference? What's the difference between God making every single thing happen forever in all of human history and God foreknowing and bringing into existence the reality that glorifies his son the most? What's the main difference?
Let me ask you a question with a question. I think will help. I think this will just help kind of summarize it. And again, I'm not defending this position. I'm just saying what the positions are.
Also, I'm just thinking out loud. I don't have these things figured out. So I'm not defending Molinism.
Yeah.
He just called me a Molinist, so that's why I keep using that word.
I said, Ben, you are a Molinist for sure.
And so it just always, it made sense to me for some time that God just picked the reality to create, to bring into physical being.
Did he discover
that brought Christ the most glory?
Did he discover it? Did he look and go, oh, what's this? Oh, that's nice. Was there a point where he had to learn what that reality was?
No, because he would have always had this knowledge.
So did he have to choose a reality if he already knew?
I also think that we're using human rationale to kind of understand the mind of God.
Totally.
Which is absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. And
we all appeal to mystery at some point.
Yeah. What a coincidence that's also something that's backed by the laws of physics and dimensionality. We cannot understand higher dimensional truths.
Sure.
We can't fully understand. We could theorize about them. We could speculate on them. We could do equations that kind of foreshadow them or whatnot. But in the same way, we can't do that because higher dimensions are beyond us and we could never actually pin them down. There's no way we're going to do it with God.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is use modern discoveries to be like, oh, that's interesting. That might be an explanation of how God did it. You see what I'm saying?
So I think
just like some people actually believe in evolution and the Big Bang and are still Christian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Why do they do that? Nobody believed all of those things for the past 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. They always thought God just made it. Okay. But because of scientific discoveries, right, and advancements in academia, Christians are like, oh, well, if that's physically true, how can we understand the Bible and the truth of the gospel with these discoveries? And so they'll be like, oh, well, here's how the Big Bang, hold on, Dennis. Here's how the Big Bang happened. God spoke and bang, it happened. Okay. It's not that it came from nothing. It's not that it was just a ball of always eternally existing matter that was spinning. God created that matter, even if it was spinning for an inordinate amount of time. When it exploded, it was because God told it to explode. Sure. You know what I mean? So they fit God into their scenarios because that's what the Bible demands. Yeah. And in the same way, I'm trying to fit God into this concept of the multiverse, which is where physics is at right now. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not defending it. I'm not saying I hold to this. I'm thinking
Sure.
out loud as you guys are asking me questions and
You're
trying to see if I have answers to your questions.
You're also trying to connect, like, what are the things in commonality between modern day discoveries in physics and Christianity?
Because they are discovering, and multiverse might not be true because it is just a theory.
Yeah.
Okay. But they are discovering truths of our physical reality, which are not debatable. Okay. Going into, hold on, Dennis. Just stay there. Don't do anything. Don't move. Okay. Hey, going into like the cellular, going into the anatomical.
US cellular?
Is that still around?
Oh, actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, but going
Like
into
a
the
stadium,
cellular, going into the cellular level, the anatomical
Yeah.
level, going into the neutrons, into the proton, they just keep going smaller and smaller and smaller, and they are discovering factually, like there's not really a lot of argument to be had, even by conspiracy theorists like Dunham, but they're discovering the intricacies and the frameworks of reality. Okay, so how can, as Christians, us not be like, oh, well, how does the Bible speak to that? And how does God speak to that? And how does this fit into Jesus? I'm just trying to make sense of what they're figuring out about reality. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Or,
Go ahead, Dennis.
Hold on, Dennis.
Or,
You go, Dennis, and then I got my question.
okay, don't forget.
I won't.
So you said something interesting earlier, Ben, though. You said that as time goes by, as we get more wise, I guess, right, in technology, and we're discovering new things.
Discover more, yeah.
But when it comes to creation, though, wouldn't you agree that people that lived, towards Noah's time and before, like, would know way more about creation than we do now?
Bro.
Right? So
You want to go deep.
So to me, it's almost like as time goes by, we're getting more perverted and twisted in our mindset because Satan is the prince of this earth, right? And that
I don't know, man. I disagree. If you think we're more twisted than the times of Noah, oh man, I got a bridge to sell you.
Okay, well, let's talk about just
I
our
think Christ is
our
king
twisting
over this
of,
earth too. Just saying.
Thank you for saying that. Our twisting of creation. Our twisting of creation, not twisting of everything, but our twisting of our concept of creation, because
in one sense, yes, because the biggest twisting of creation is probably the what's it called, the evolutionary theory, right? That's
Darwinian
one of
evolution.
Darwinian evolution.
Yeah.
Not microevolution.
Adaptational evolution.
What's the big one? What's the big? Not microevolution, but the big one.
Macro. It's okay.
I knew.
I was like, is he really not?
2.6%.
I was going to say macro, but I'm like, is he not catching that?
2.6%. Pay me.
It's 2.6% sugar.
Oh, shoot, you're right. That's not even the alcohol content.
There's not even alcohol.
Oh man.
Hey, so yeah, they've twisted aspects of creation theoretically, but at the same time, they are making discoveries that are factual. You can look in a microscope and see that everything's made of little things called cells. Right. You can then break those things down even further. So they've quantified these things, and they're measurable, and they're here. There's no really, you can't really mess with them. Sure, you could theorize and screw around with where did that come from, but you can't deny that those things are there. You know what I mean?
Okay. Right.
Except they do.
Oh, you want to go deep.
Let me ask my question that gets back on track, and then I would actually love to go down how this connects to atheism and stuff, if you're willing.
Absolutely.
Only if you're willing.
And able.
Anyway, back to Molinism, determinism. I think this question kind of sums up how this affects free will and how this affects God causing history to happen regardless of our choices. Right. Let me ask you a question, okay?
Me?
Both of you. Okay. Would it have been possible for Judas not to betray Jesus?
No, never.
Ooh, he's so fast with his answer.
No, bro.
Hold
because
on.
existence...
Don't let him answer.
Him?
Yes, I asked both of you. Gosh, man.
Him?
Oh, my goodness. Dennis, you matter, man. I just want you to know.
It's justifiable in these types of conversations.
You have way more of a place here than I do.
No, that's not true. No, that's not true. Gosh, that's such a good question.
Really?
Just
yeah.
no, stop, Ben. Stop. You're leading the
Because
witness.
I've thought of this. And my
You have?
instinct,
Okay.
My instinct is to. I love you, Ben. My instinct is to say no as fast as Ben did, or faster. Oh man.
Just say it, bro.
Okay. I see this world as being constantly,
Wrong.
always, constantly.
He was so
He was
ready.
waiting for that.
He was just waiting. No matter what you said, that was coming out. You could have said potato, and he would have hit that button, dude.
I wish I did that.
I'm sorry.
I was like even looking down, like in deep thought. And
He was
just
so
like,
deep.
He's like, I don't care what he says.
Okay, see? And that was meant to happen.
So God made that happen.
Did God make me?
That was determined.
He determined you to do that. Wow.
Do it,
So
Ben.
it's a great example of
That was so sacrilegious, bro.
What?
It's okay. Go ahead.
bro.
Dennis,
I think
go ahead.
we
You got
live,
to stand. You got to stand.
Yeah.
I think we live in a deep, dark,
Wait.
depraved
You
world.
got to ask you got to answer the question first.
He's getting there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That the only reason why there's any good,
It's because of God.
only because of Jesus' grace.
Amen, dude.
Because
That's what I've been saying.
Hang on. Driving to work, I believe Satan wants to kill me constantly.
Sure.
I believe he wants me to trip and fall constantly as I walk to the
Yeah.
bathroom at night. I believe that he wants me only bad, only destruction, only stealing, only death, all the time. Nothing, never lets up. Always that, always worse, always twisted and perverted. I believe because of the grace of God that we have is what protects us, whether it's protecting believers or non-believers. I believe that even the common grace, right, is protecting people. Like that's what I've come to see the world as. So
Okay.
when you talk about Judas making a decision, I believe that the decision was always in a sinful man's heart to sin, to choose
Sure.
sin, to choose
So why
death.
do people do good?
Only
Who people?
because what?
Anybody. So is it that, let me ask you the question though, is it because is the reason Judas had to do what he did, is it because of sin or because of God saying this will come to pass? Where's the freedom? Where's the bondage?
I have to say it's sin.
Okay, so if it's because of sin, you're basically a hop, skip, and a jump away from total depravity of Calvinism.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything good, which would actually destroy Molinism, I
What?
think.
But
Because
I
hold
even
on,
said
wait.
nobody can be saved.
I know, not your version. I'm just saying
That-
the
that's
thing
so
that exists
credit.
out there called Molinism. I'm not saying you, Ben. I'm just saying like
Oh,
I don't think all your beliefs line up perfectly with
Yeah,
Molinism.
I also
anyways.
don't think so
I think
either.
if we research it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's crap. Maybe. I don't know what you're going to come to. But I'm just saying that the reason is because if God determines what people would do because they would do good, it's not because he causes it to happen. It's because they have the ability to do that good. Right?
Yes.
So now they're not bound to the bondage of the will, to sin, to that sin nature, that all their choices are entangled up in that sin. Now they have that freedom to do good, whatever they want. So now it's a whole kind of different stream you would go down rather than sin is the main issue in the Christian. And I think it asks a lot of questions, but with the Judas thing, I would say, if you ask me that, there's no way Judas could not have done what he did because God said he would do it. That's what Ben said. He wants you to know that. But Judas freely did everything he did.
wait.
And that's the tension between the free will of man wrapped up in the decretive will of God.
So God didn't make Judas do it. Judas did it on his own volition, his own choices, his own free will.
But in a sense, God did because he could not have done it any other way. There's no
That
way
doesn't add up.
he couldn't have. No, well, this is the conversation for the last 1,600 plus years.
Oh, I know, but I'm
look
just
at
saying.
it as
Literally
God allowed
this.
it. Look at as allowed, not that he did, but he.
Okay.
But he couldn't have. He couldn't have not done it because
but
God
it's
said
not,
he would.
But it's not just God allowing it.
He
It
caused
was mandated by God.
And if God said it would happen and it could have not happened, then God could be a liar. It says God cannot lie.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So if God always tells the truth, if he's a God who cannot lie, right? There's no faltering in him. There's no turning or shifting of shadow. There is no, he says, I decree the end from the beginning, right? I think it's Isaiah 46, 9 through 11. So if God said this would happen, there's no way Judas can then say, actually, something else will happen, right?
Right.
This is the whole kind of framework for determinism, that God has actually not only decreed Judas to do what he did, but all of history to be the way it is and to play out the way it has. Therefore, the reason people can't thwart it or can't change it is not because of bondage to sin, although that is absolutely a bondage we have to sin, but it is because God decreed what would come to pass the way it will.
Okay.
That's determinism.
Is it the fact that he just knew that Judas would never choose him?
How did he know?
That's where I come in.
Okay.
He looked down all the millions of possibilities and he learned.
No,
Which one?
not learned. You keep saying learned as if God is some kind of.
I'm just playing the advocate. I'm not even saying the devil's
Say the
advocate.
devil. Say it.
No.
That's
The
what you're doing.
holy advocate over here that will just kind of push back as a brother
So
on everything you say.
Again, we are trying to understand the
Mind
proverbial
of God.
mind of God,
Yeah,
which isn't a real mind like our mind
sure.
is, where it has a beginning and an end,
Right,
and it
correct.
learns in between there somewhere. Okay,
All knowledge comes from God.
everything, always, constantly, is in the mind of God. In all realities, all layers of dimension, the spiritual, the physical, everything is in the mind of God. That's what omniscience is. Okay, so here's the thing: even if God created this reality, he knows what would have happened had he created all other realities or any other iteration of reality.
Again, we're circular though, because why did he choose this one?
One had to be created.
But why did he choose it?
I don't know. Ask God. But
All
one,
right, then there's no
but
point
one.
in choosing
Listen.
position.
But one had to be created. Okay.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, I think God can do whatever he wants, regardless of what happens with creation.
Okay, but we're not saying anything different.
Totally.
Right.
One reality had to be created.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So if one reality had to be created, what, from your perspective, from a quasi-deterministic perspective, why did God choose this reality to create?
Because it pleases him. Because
I say the same thing.
Yeah,
Give me something more.
Oh, nice. I mean, I don't know if there is another answer. I think God is good, and what he does is good. And the definition of good is what God does and what God wants and God's
You
ways.
think it was because the most people would have been saved through this?
Well, I mean, I think
I don't
even think that has it because
I don't think that. I think actually probably from actually go ahead. Sorry, I think he was asking you.
were you?
I wasn't.
Okay, you go first, then I'll go.
I was just going to say I don't know if that really matters, to be honest. And this is where I think like the whole double predestination. Are you familiar with that term?
But for the viewers.
Oh, yes. Sorry. So the view that God predestines those who will inherit salvation, the elect, and then he also predestines those who would go to destruction. That before the foundation of the world, he has chosen the elect and the rest are passed over. He does not bring those into the elect, the group of the elect. Right. Now, whichever way you go, it doesn't change reality. Because God still chose to create those creatures that would never believe in him, knowing before they ever even were thought of being existed, that they would not believe. So there is a level to where God is okay with that and allowed that to happen for these people to be created, knowing that they would never believe. And now what you have to argue is, does he want them to be saved or not want them to be saved? And that's up for debate. I believe he does. I know some people don't. They would say he chose those whom he would save. And they would push back and say, is God able to save who he wants to save? If he's able to, then what's stopping him? Is it you? Is it your will? Is it your resistance to God? And that gets into irresistible grace. This gets into the whole 5 points of Calvinism. It's a system that all supports itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Ben, I think does that answer your question?
I forgot what you were saying actually.
Beautiful.
What I was saying, or
you were going to say.
No, Dennis, you asked something.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to Now I'm thinking about Calvinism and Mark
This guy's
Driscoll.
just over here talking, and both those are like,
No, I'm listening to him, and I'm thinking about Mark Driscoll and Calvinism and how he named his kids like John.
yeah.
And, you know, this kind
Oh, did he? Nice.
Like they're all like Calvinists.
Cool. Yeah.
Because he was the
thing
first
about-
one that like introduced that to me, to be honest.
Yeah, the funny thing about John Calvin too is like the 5 points of Calvinism really came to fruition after he died, like way later. The reformers all played, there's many of them, they all played crucial parts in helping develop that framework for understanding really it's the sovereignty of God is kind of the main issue. And this is why when you talk with someone who's firmly holding to the Calvinistic framework, the sovereignty of God is going to be kind of the main talking point, the main point of contention with
why is that?
You oppose.
Is there a contention between the sovereignty of God from a Molinistic perspective and a determinist?
Well, they would be determinists. Full 5-point Calvinists are determinists.
But I'm saying, is there a difference between the perspective of the sovereignty of God in Molinism versus Calvinism?
Well, it depends who you ask, man. Who
That's
defines arbitrarily what sovereignty is, and
Wouldn't
how exactly
be
God has
that
to
God
be sovereign?
can do and does anything and everything He wants?
Yes.
That's the sovereignty of God.
Well, it depends. Like, where's your definition of sovereignty?
What I just said.
Where'd you get it from?
The Bible.
So you'd have to read scripture to see what that.
That's why I said the Bible.
Sure. So, but they would say, like, what does it mean that he does whatever he wants? Is it that he gets whatever result he wants?
Jesus.
And that's via the means of Molinism? Or is it he literally does everything he wants? Determinism.
Jesus.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. They both would go to there. That's the place they'll go. And they're both, I don't say Molinists are not Christians.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I don't know how much the Bible supports that view. And if you listen to like William Lane Craig, who's 100 million times smarter than I am, very, very smart guy. His defense of Molinism is that it's not directly from the Bible. It's a philosophical framework that we learn to help understand biblical contentions. And he would say Calvinism is the exact same thing.
It is the same thing. That's what all of these terms we put on things are. It's just ways we're trying to explain what we're reading in the Bible.
Every Calvinist would disagree with you.
The word Calvinism is not found in the Bible.
Neither is rapture.
Okay, the word Molinism is not found in the Bible. Arminianism
Trinity.
is not found. Pre-tribulation and rapture is not found in the Bible.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of these things,
Sure.
all of these terms that we then expand upon
Yeah.
and we use to try to explain what the Bible is saying.
Yeah.
All of those things are just words that we're making up, just like Calvin did, just like homeboy over here, Luis de Molina. That's, he created he's just explaining.
Did you do this? Molina.
Luis de Molina.
Who created open theism? Come on.
I don't know, but open theism is open. In my opinion, open theism is the result of syncretism.
What's that?
Syncretism means to take two views that do not coincide and try and hold them in tension together and try and make them work. Similarly, how you brought up Darwinian evolution, I would argue Darwinian evolution is syncretistic. I don't actually think it works with Christianity. I just don't think it does. I don't think you're a heretic because you believe in Darwinian evolution. I just think you're wrong. I don't think it works. But I think that those who would hold to that, because they're holding to that syncretistic framework, over time, they're going to have to start including more syncretistic ideas because those ideas are contrary. Those ideas presuppose other ideas and lead to other conclusions. And eventually, just like your bullet analogy or like train tracks, if they're parallel, they will always be in tension. They're non-syncretistic, or they're non-syncretistic. They're in sync, right? If they're slightly off, just barely, now they are syncretistic to where over time they lead further and further apart. Yeah. That's kind of how syncretism works. It's kind of like Jesus gave the parable of the leaven. He said, but be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. But he said a little leaven leavens the whole lump. It just takes a little bit, and that over time permeates. In the same way, he actually gave that parable for how the kingdom works. That he brought the kingdom, and it would be a little piece of leaven. It'd be a little mustard seed. And over the course of history would grow into a full tree, or a whole lump, would permeate the whole thing. So Yeah, I
Man,
think
so good.
syncretism is what we ought to be afraid of. It's not people who you can usually identify who's going to go off the rails at some point if you just let them talk enough early on, because they're not gonna reveal dangerous necessarily beliefs, but they'll say enough to go, that's not really working. For example, I in 2020 there kind of got this idea amongst a lot of Christians who were more on the woke side. I would say absolutely woke, fully now indoctrinated. Go ahead.
That's racist!
I don't know what to tell you. They kind of had this idea that the form of evangelism that we read in the Bible is like colonizing. Therefore, it's racist. It's not okay to go into another culture and proclaim one that's dominant or better and try and change theirs. It's cultural appropriation. It's wrong. Although the Bible like straight up tells us to go into every nation,
Yeah, I mean,
on the earth,
right.
and teach them
So
to
stupid.
obey everything Jesus taught. That's not even bring America. That's bring Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's not about what nation you're from. It's about bringing the kingdom.
So bad.
And whatever nation is most kingdom, you should want to be like that nation. If it's America, it's America. I don't know what to tell you. You know, America has amazing blessings because of the pioneers and the people that brought that Christian foundation before us. And we're still living off of the many blessings of them.
Tail end
Tail end of the point, is that what you're saying?
of the blessings.
Sorry. Yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah,
tail end.
for
Yes.
sure.
Well, because of what?
Sin.
Because of syncretism.
Syncretism.
It didn't happen
Syncretism.
today. It didn't happen in 2020. What happened in 2020 is because of what happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago. There's a little bit of leaven that slowly permeates is how it works. And so with the whole like not colonizing idea, that would you say that's dramatic or that's mild?
Not colonizing.
Yeah, well, like don't evangelize. That's not really what Christians should do because that's cultural appropriation and
so
colonizing.
satanic.
Well, do you think it's a big thing or a little thing?
Very big satanic thing.
Okay, Dennis, big thing or little thing? Big deal, little deal?
If you don't do it, like if we stop putting into it,
that it's wrong for you to go to other nations and bring the gospel and try and convert them.
it's. But the question is it a big deal as far as?
Yeah, is that like an extreme belief? That it's wrong to do that?
Like a common belief?
No. Is it an extreme belief? Is it like a really intense thing or like a big deal that someone holds that view?
That you should
Or
not.
is it just like yeah, women could be pastors? Is it like a mild thing?
Oh, no, I think it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yes.
That didn't come about.
So I just needed to figure out exactly.
Dude, I was about to kick you off.
It's okay. It's okay, dude. I almost
No.
ran.
I was trying to understand the question.
Literally
of big deal or
stop, drop, and
small
roll.
deal. Okay. Imagine if I said like, "Oh yeah, that's no big deal."
That's no big deal.
I would have literally ended you.
We would have drove to Florida. We'll just say that. So that view that this person holds, and I actually know a person who holds this. I'm not going to say their name.
Here?
No, not here. They live
Thank
in a different
God.
state. But I was in Georgia when I met this person. So I know this person from Georgia, from Atlanta. Now, that belief didn't come about in one day. You can trace that to a smaller, more harmless belief.
Yeah,
to a
for
smaller,
sure.
more harmless belief, to a smaller, more harmless belief. But all of them have been syncretistic. So that little bit of leaven, that little bit of syncretism is what allowed those extreme beliefs to come about. So what we need to do and what the Puritans were trying to do and what those earlier before us have been about is to purify, to try and to strip us off of all bits of syncretism, anything that would oppose the truth of God, and purify the bride. And look for the little things. That's why sometimes you're like, yeah, it's just not a big deal, man. Why is he intense about that? Probably because he sees what that leads to. He knows. He knows if you're like, yeah, I just think, most black people are oppressed. You're like, okay, well, there's something that led to that, right? That's not just out of nowhere. Yeah, most black people, and like, yeah, but what if he says he's not oppressed? Is he oppressed now? Do you now have to, the white person have to tell the black guy, actually, you don't know that you've been oppressed. So I have to teach you because you're too dumb to know that and speak for yourself. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
men
I respect that I think have kind of been a little hard on the little things, but the ones that I trust, I do believe it's because they see what those things lead to, and they're actually protecting the flock.
And that's such a big deal because you look at every social issue that we have right now, right? Like is stems from somewhere, right? And this is the answer to how can you talk to an intelligent person that you thought, reads the Bible, understands the Bible, knows the Lord, but they think completely different in so many ways, right? Like you understand that it started somewhere with a certain belief in it and just kind of piled on or added on over time. I mean, that's just the work of Satan, right? Like that's just like how he does it.
And
Wow.
I want to let you talk. I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
I
no,
just also point with that is that we're not very historical. Like as a people, we don't really look to those before us who actually worked out a lot of these issues,
right.
who have paved a lot of groundwork for us that we could learn a lot from. We kind of are just like, oh, we're the greatest. We're the best. We have the most figured out.
Yeah.
I think we're the most just cuckoo generation right now. You know what I mean? And those before us really like people died for basic beliefs, basic blessings that we have, like being able to have a Bible. Someone was burnt. Many people were burnt alive because it's good that us three right now can have our own Bibles in our own language. Right. You know what I mean?
And
that's crazy.
And in the TPT version.
And in the TPT, I'll give you that.
Never mind. I was going to go off on a tangent there. So what have we discovered today?
Can I give you some Bible verses?
Sure, man.
Remember earlier you asked if I can prove it to you?
Did you just sit here and research Bible verses? Or
no, what do you mean? Research
Dude,
what?
It's in his head. It's in his yed.
It's like the knowledge that God has. It exists in his mind.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's real until he like makes it real.
Sure.
So it all existed in my head, but now I'm going to make it real.
Okay, what scripture are you going to bring? Let's bring it. Let me hear.
Okay.
Get me learned.
I'm going to read it to you.
I thought you had it in your head.
Okay.
You can't get up. What do you mean? You're supposed to.
No, I know the context.
I'd rather have him read it.
Yeah, trust me.
I know it's in Deuteronomy. Okay, I get it. I know that much.
The first half of the thickness of the Bible.
Okay, let's hear it.
Matthew 11.
Okay.
Verse 20.
Go until.
You got it in your head?
I got. Well, I know some of that.
I'm not going to let you see this.
I just go ahead.
Then Jesus began to criticize openly the cities in which he had done many of his miracles because they did not repent. Yeah. Woe to you, Chorizo. Chorazin. Okay.
Chorazin.
Woe to you, Bethsaida. If the miracles done in you. Hold on. If the miracles done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes, carrying on.
Doesn't prove your point.
And you, Capernaum, you will be exalted. Will you be exalted to heaven? No, you will be thrown down to Hades. For if the miracles done among you had been done in Sodom
and Gomorrah,
just Sodom in this one, not Gomorrah, even though they're both destroyed at the exact same time for the exact same reasons, Sodom and Gomorrah. Only Sodom would have repented, not Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay,
he doesn't say that. It just says Sodom would have.
I know, but
it doesn't say.
But you jumped.
Gomorrah wouldn't have.
You jumped to the conclusion.
See, that's like the Passion Translation version of this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God!
I'm kidding.
Is that
okay. Just go.
Okay,
just go.
So
I'm sorry.
In all of human history, Sodom. Well, not all of it, but in biblical history, Sodom and Gomorrah are united because they were destroyed at the same time for the exact same reasons for the same sins.
They represent something.
Together.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why as I'm reading the verse, it only says Sodom would have repented and continued to this day. Yeah. Interestingly enough, not Gomorrah, but you wanted to instantly read Gomorrah into it, even though, sure, it doesn't say. It doesn't say
it said that, bro.
Gomorrah. It doesn't.
Just got it wrong. Man.
It doesn't say Gomorrah. Okay. Hold on. Let me kick you a little more, and then I'll
go ahead. Man, I'm down.
It doesn't say Gomorrah would not have repented, but by leaving it out, I can make a small argument that it's possible that he knew that Gomorrah would still have been destroyed.
America's in there too.
Hold on.
Because he didn't say that either. I could just
China.
China's in there too.
But in the Bible, when it says Sodom and Gomorrah, it doesn't say Sodom and America.
Right? Didn't say Gomorrah either. Is what my point is.
Well, everywhere else in the Bible where Sodom is mentioned. Show me another verse in the Bible where Sodom is mentioned and not Gomorrah.
Okay, Revelation, I believe.
Damn it!
It's chapter 14, maybe.
I really thought I had him there.
It says, the great city which is spiritually Sodom and Egypt.
Ah, bro.
Wait,
Not
where
different.
are no
different.
no where-
Spiritually
stop.
Sodom?
It says spiritually, which
Okay.
is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where our Lord was crucified.
Okay.
It's talking about Jerusalem. It says it has become Sodom and Egypt.
Okay.
This is dramatic, emphatic hyperbole, and it's exactly what you just referenced. If you go back and read prophetic literature, go read Ezekiel.
Bro, you could call me fat all
Isaiah.
you want.
What?
I just did that to stop you because you were crushing me.
You're not.
listen. Saying
not trying to
that
crush you.
something is spiritually Sodom is different than saying
He didn't say
Sodom.
Gomorrah, bro. No. Your conditions for the verse that I had to bring out of my hat was that a time Sodom is mentioned in the Bible and not Gomorrah with
That's
it. And
true.
I did exactly
That's true.
that.
I'll give you
so
that.
everybody, please email Ben. His email is I don't know what it is.
I'll cut that
actually.
out. And I'm actually
His
just going to splice
address
it right
is-
here to look like I cut something out. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'll give you that. You did pull a verse out of your hat.
Thank
where
you. I'm
Sodom
not
is
even
mentioned.
wearing a hat.
I don't
dude.
think
That's
it's the
crazy.
same.
It's a tinfoil hat.
Okay.
It's down here below.
Okay, so
Ben's got plenty of them.
how does this not prove that God knows what could have happened?
I didn't.
Actually, I'll give you one more.
Oh, no. Don't.
Can I give you one more?
Let me answer your question.
Can I give you one more?
No, you just asked me a question.
But
But I want to answer that, and then you ask me that question.
then I'm going to ask you the same thing after reading this one.
No, it's fine. Then I'll answer with that one.
Okay.
Ask your question one more time, just so the audience is
So
very
how
clear
does
on what it
how
is.
does it
It?
Do we need to rewind and find out what the question was?
No, okay, hold on. How does this passage
Mm-hmm.
where Jesus himself says that had the gospel been proclaimed
Yeah.
in two other territories, okay, he knows they would have repented.
Mm-hmm.
And Sodom would continue to this day.
Mm-hmm.
It would still exist. It would not have been destroyed. Had the gospel that he's now proclaiming to you people
Mm-hmm.
been proclaimed to them, how does that not show that God has a knowledge of things that could have happened
Yeah.
and the result of what those things
Sure.
would have been,
Yeah, I
but
get it.
never came to fruition, never existed in
Yeah.
actual reality?
Yeah. So I would answer this way. It doesn't as much as it does.
Here we
And
go.
this is why, because do you know the difference between something that's descriptive and prescriptive?
Do you know the answer to my question?
I'm answering your question. Do you know the difference between descriptive and prescriptive?
Descript is a software that will.
Okay, get out of here. Descriptive stuff, descriptive is describing something.
Uh-huh.
Prescriptive is giving a prescription for how something functions. It's not a prescriptive text, it's a descriptive text. And it's in the literary style of judgment, hyperbolic language. In
Okay,
fact,
okay.
I'm going to
Got
throw a bone right back at you. How many gods are there?
Got it. Okay, so you think Jesus is joking,
No, I don't. I think he
Oh.
was proving a very, very strong point.
but he's not serious.
I just said he's proving a very, very
I know,
strong point.
but he doesn't mean the
So
words.
what's the
he's
point?
saying.
It
Is
means
he
every
proving?
word he says.
What's the point that he's proving?
So let me ask you a question. How many gods are there?
Big G, little G. What are we talking about here?
Just gods.
Well, it depends.
Okay.
Are we talking about what the people and the nations and human history is
God,
described
God
as gods?
says, Isaiah 43:10, before me there was no God formed, nor after me will there ever be another God formed.
So we're
Isaiah
talking
44:6, he doesn't even know of another God.
about- Okay.
Okay.
But he does.
Okay.
Because there's other passages where he refers to the other gods.
So what do you do with that text?
It's easy. Read Michael Heiser, The Unseen Realm.
I get it. I'm just asking you because you just tried to do that same
It's
thing
easy,
with
those-
me, and I'm doing it back to you.
Nah, bro.
I'm giving you a text.
Dennis.
Wait, hold up. What literary style is Isaiah written in?
I don't know, but this is
Hold on.
Jesus speaking.
Hyperbolic. Well, is the triune God speaking? Doesn't matter. It's the triune God. Is Jesus speaking with Yahweh's voice? Are you separating the Trinity now?
Dennis, do
Yes.
you think that me quoting this verse here, where Jesus is saying that these two cities would still either repented or still exist had the gospel been preached to them, do you think that it's on par with how many gods are there in the Bible?
No, that's not what my question is about.
Not at all.
My question is
me
about
neither.
a descriptive or prescriptive. And I asked you if this is descriptive or prescriptive. I also asked you what type of literature it is. It's from Isaiah, which means it's prophetic
This isn't
literature.
from Isaiah. This is Matthew 11.
Mine was from Isaiah.
I know,
I
but
was,
I'm talking about Matthew
I was
11.
making the claim that Jesus is using prophetic hyperbole, and then I gave you one that is prophetic hyperbole, and you just said
But
there's
the-
other scriptures that contradict it.
You think this is prophetic hyperbole?
Yes,
Why do you think it's prophetic hyperbole?
because that's the literary style of that part of the scriptures. In the same way, Matthew 24, Matthew 23, those are all prophetic hyperbole.
I'm not going to read all of it. Okay.
Okay, go just go listen to the ones we did on Mark 13 and Luke 21. All of that is dramatic, emphatic hyperbole.
Okay, so you just don't think that realistically Jesus is actually saying that Sodom would have continued and that Chorizo would have repented.
I'm not saying that at all.
But you're saying that it's hyperbole,
Yeah,
which doesn't mean it's real. It just
that's
means
not true.
hyperbole is
Yeah.
okay. So it could be real. So how does
Yeah.
this not prove my point? That God has an idea of what could have happened.
I'm not saying it doesn't prove your point. I'm just saying it doesn't prove your point. I'm just not saying Jesus is teaching what would have happened in a different reality. I'm just saying he used this to condemn his generation, said if I would have done this to them, that's what they would have repented. You're worse than them is what he's saying.
Okay.
That's his point. I'm not saying he's not teaching that.
But
I'm saying you can't take that verse and prove that he's giving a descriptive teaching for the multiverse where God makes different decisions based on what would have happened.
Sure. Maybe it doesn't go to the extent that I'm trying to describe, right? And think out loud with you guys for. But would you admit that this is an example of knowledge that God has and Christ had of a scenario that did not happen, but would have happened had certain things been different in human reality?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Let me give you that second one.
Yeah.
Because maybe this one's hyperbole too.
Oh, wow.
First Samuel. Dude, good, right? Great.
You got to get a little... I'm
That's
still
a
a
knife.
piece of garbage. Can you do that one? Because that's how I feel when you say it like that.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
I like that. It's cute. You're not a piece of garbage, bro. We get along.
Just like a whole thing of it.
This is another passage that's probably not hyperbole.
It's pronounced passage.
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 1 Samuel 23:10. This is when David is running away from Saul, right? With his 600 troops. Then David said, "O Lord God of Israel, your servant has clearly heard that Saul is planning to come to Keilah to destroy the city because of me. Will the leaders of Keilah deliver me into his hands? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord God of Israel, please inform your servant." Then the Lord said, "He will come down." David asked, "Will the leaders of Keilah deliver me and my men into Saul's hand?" The Lord said, "They will deliver you over." So David and his men, who numbered 600, set out and left Keilah. They moved around from one place to another. So because God said, "I know what's going to happen. You will be delivered and the city will be destroyed," David's like, "Okay, cool. Peace. I'm out." And they left and they went somewhere else to and fro. And David survived and wasn't killed. And the Bible continues. God had knowledge of what would have happened had David actually gone into Keilah, which is what he wanted to do, or stayed in Keilah.
Explain to me this again. Go ahead.
CC. Read you it?
Yeah, let's go through it again.
Okay. Dennis, did you capture?
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
Okay. So, verse 10, 1 Samuel 23:10. Then David said, "O Lord of Israel, your servant has clearly heard that Saul is planning to come to Keilah to destroy the city because of me." David's hiding out in Keilah with 600 men because Saul is chasing him, right? And David catches wind that Saul's on his way. "Will the leaders of Keilah deliver me into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord God of Israel, please inform your servant." Then the Lord said, "He will come down." David asked, "Will the leaders of Keilah deliver me and my men into Saul's hands?" The Lord said, "They will deliver you over." So David and his men, who numbered 600, set out and left Keilah. They moved around from one place to another.
Sure.
God explains to him the result of an action that he was trying to understand if he should do or not. And God tells him,
Joseph in Egypt.
What do you mean?
That they're going to come kill your kid. Flee. If you stay here, they will kill the kid.
Okay, right. So God has knowledge of things that
Sure.
don't come into fruition, don't come into reality at all.
Well, of course. Yeah.
And then he intervenes to make certain things actually
Well, hold
happen.
on, you
Because
already-
God could have not answered him.
did he? Well, hold the thing though. Here's the thing, man.
Yes.
This I don't. I disagree with that.
What?
But the last thing you said about he intervenes because of this.
Oh, sure. That's my stipulation.
That's the stipulation. Exactly.
Right.
It's like when Moses, when God says, "I'm going to destroy all of the Israelites," and Moses intercedes, right? Did he not destroy them because Moses interceded? Or was that his plan, was to provoke Moses to an intercessory position where he would intercede on behalf of Israel like a type of Christ?
Oh man. Oh
Right?
man.
Why are you laughing, Dennis?
Oh,
What's
man.
wrong?
And then he saves Israel
Oh.
because that's what he was actually determined to do. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't exactly prove your point, but absolutely I would say these could be texts. But I also think that there's conditional things in the Bible, lots of conditional promises. So guess what? What happens when Jesus said inside the city in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, what does he say? He says, flee. What happens if you don't
Right.
flee?
You're going to die.
You're going to die.
Right. So just
conditional.
Here's the other thing about my perspective on this.
That's not I don't think your position's full. Like that's not Molinism even.
This?
What your position?
Oh, I don't think so either.
No.
I think it kind of overlaps because this is the thing.
Maybe some commonality.
I really don't see a lot of like difference between the determinist perspective and the Molinist perspective because you guys, we're just talking.
You guys.
You
I haven't
guys.
said I'm a
I
determinist.
know it's true, and I haven't said I'm a Molinist, but
I haven't said you're a Molinist either.
you did Thursday, and I'm holding it against you.
Oh my goodness! No.
Hey, there's not a lot of difference in my opinion because one wants to say God is actively making it, doing it, causing it, okay? And the other, the Molinist, the multiversalist, okay, is like, yeah, God's doing it, God's causing it, because he made this option of reality, which is unfolding exactly as he needed it to. He doesn't have to sit here and make every single thing happen constantly in all of human history and reality. He doesn't have to be actively
Well, 'cause
doing
It
it.
doesn't matter. Has he decreed that it will?
Yes.
Can it not?
No.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying.
Determinism.
That's determinism. Yeah.
You're a determinist.
Yeah.
But
Nothing can happen outside of what he decrees will happen.
I agree.
There you go.
But the mechanism he used to do what you just described and to bring about what he determined was the reality he chose to create. Because here's the thing. Do you know why you do what you do?
Oh yeah, dude, I messed up.
Yeah, okay. But really, even in non-Christian circles, this is the question. Nurture versus nature. Okay? Nobody knows why they do what they do. You could have been born somewhere else. I could have been born somewhere else. Guess what? The guy that brought David the message that, hey, Saul's on his way to Keilah. Okay, and then David gets down and prays, "Oh Lord, is Keilah going to turn me over because I heard Saul's on his way?" The guy that brought David that message could have slept in that morning. His freaking rooster could have got eaten by a fox, and could have got eaten by a fox, and could have not woken up right at the sound of. So there's so
God
many
said
things.
he'll come down.
Well,
if David doesn't leave, he's coming down. So does that mean it's actually determined what he'll do based on what David does?
See, here's what I think. Not what I think, but here's a question.
There's so many layers, man.
I think there's
that
layers.
You guys have.
And my perspective takes into account the layers and doesn't just simplify it by saying God does it all, because then you're screwed, because then God's to blame for everything.
Totally. I'm also not a determinist.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I think that there's also the delivery of the circumstance. So
Sure.
David prayed, right? He heard something and he prayed for an answer. God gave him an answer. He could have still stayed.
Would God have saved him?
100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he said if you don't leave, they're going to come take you.
Yeah, he literally said what's going to
He
happen
just
if
said
he doesn't leave.
deliver you into them, but that doesn't mean
Well, that's true. I guess.
You know,
So then,
I'm
okay.
just saying
So
there could have
then,
been a different story outcome.
so then has
Conditional.
everything.
Right.
So then has everything that's ever happened. Listen, if David wouldn't have fled, you know what would be different? This would be different. Is this not the perfect word of God that exists exactly as it was
It's
supposed to
perfect
exist?
because that's how we received it.
Well, I'm going to also
Ooh,
push
I just-
back a little bit too and say this is English, the Greek.
You know what I mean?
Hebrew,
You
and
know what I mean? We're beyond that.
It's not the
We're
TPT.
beyond that.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not as good as the Passion. So
Okay, Dennis, you don't actually think that everything in here itself, the way it happened, is perfect? You think that the Bible is only perfect because of the way it has been given to us through God? I mean, by God.
Well,
through
doesn't
men?
that make it perfect anyway?
so
Do you see what I'm saying?
But doesn't
Yeah,
that make it
also I
perfect though? Doesn't that make it perfect
wanna-
either way you get it? I mean, whether it makes it perfect, no matter what, it's perfect.
It does, but
Good answer, Dennis.
one of those perspectives can leave open the door that things could have happened differently.
oh, that sounds
And
like a
they-
Molinist.
That does. It sounds like an,
Oh, it could happen differently. Got him.
You got me.
he got himself, man.
Dang, dude. Hey, all
hold on.
that beside though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, will you forget?
I already forgot.
Okay, I'll be quick. Hopefully you remember. I was just gonna say, within Christendom, there are some other alternative views, and some of those would be like the things that were very strongly determined to the minute detail about were things that were only related to Christ, bringing about the gospel, things like that. In the Bible is the way that we have it. And how that story unfolded, and not literally everything like what cereal you eat or what shoe you grabbed this morning or you got a flat tire. I would say there's everything's a trade-off in life, and everything's a trade-off in theology. There's benefits to certain theological frameworks, but there's also things that are sucky, and you have to work with all of them.
Yeah.
None of them are perfect, you know?
Right. Well,
Yeah. I just am trying to also take into account all the nuances of people's decision making as well. I don't think anybody can honestly say that they know for a fact why they do certain things that they do. People don't know where their ideas come from. People don't know. There's so many factors that go into every single little minute detail of who we are and why we do what we do. And to say that, you'd have to say that every one of those thoughts is like God doing it in your mind constantly if you're a determinist. Or you're just on your own, autonomous, until God needs you to react a certain way and he nudges you into that direction to bring about his will.
okay, so let's talk practical.
And then you freely choose the nudge.
Let's give that in some life, some practicality. So this weekend, I was literally, maybe even a little bit more than this weekend, a little bit longer.
Is there any other way?
I was
Figuratively going to go to the beach.
Hypothetically,
I was
I was almost.
I was
Literally.
prophetically, hyperbolically
Spiritually, I went to the store.
going to save Sodom.
I love it.
Nice. That was good.
Yeah.
I was
I need a
tormented.
plastic knife.
I was
dude. You need a real
tormented by a thought. Okay. For maybe, I don't know, maybe it's been like maybe 4 or 5 days. Where
It's because you saw the Barbie movie, huh?
No. It's something that I went through, that I experienced, that I just can't shake. And I prayed for it to be removed. I said, God, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to have this in my life. Can you remove it? I'm actively trying not to think about this. I'm actively, but it keeps coming up. Like I wake up in the morning and it's there. I go to sleep and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and it's there. It's a thought. It's this idea of something, and it's not like a demonic. I'm not talking that in that kind of realm. I'm just saying it's an idea, and I can't shake it. And then so on Sunday, I had this moment with God where it was a trust factor for me that I had to kind of reconcile or have like a little come to Jesus moment with myself, as far as how much do I trust him and giving it over to him. Now, the interesting thing was he slowly took it away. I woke up this morning not thinking about it. I went to bed, last night, and so it's nothing that I did besides tell him, okay, I gotta trust you in this. And but I'm thinking now, as we're talking, like, so that thought, that was that used so they can push me to an area of trust and surrender?
Or I don't know, but did God use it?
Well, I think he's actually asking you, based on the conversation we've been having of determinism versus like the Molinist perspective, is that God putting that thought in Dennis's head?
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know what a determinist for sure would say to that, but what I think they would respond to that is say God determined that it would happen, but he also did not just everything he does himself, but the means by which everything happened as well. It's like saying God determines the ends as well as the means is kind of what they would say. So like even evangelism, he didn't just determine that you would come to faith. He determined that someone would share the gospel with you, the means by which it happens as well. Just like Job determined that Job would suffer by means of Satan. Or for example, you would experience mercy and would experience a washing over and a renewal, but via means of either trauma, your mind, your sin, or the devil or demon, any one of those prompting you to dwell on this thing that happened or whatever, right? I'm guessing what they would say is the end result of God's determination would be that relief.
Right. Well, his glory,
the means in which his
glory in the end. Because
we'd all say that. Glory is like,
because ultimately
man's chief, chief man and of all.
It brought me to a place of choosing trust, and then he gave me relief through that, right? He gave me peace and calmness. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's such an interesting conversation when you take it to a practical level of our everyday lives. Not just in theory or theology.
Well, yeah, that's the world we live in, right? And so the problem with the determinist point of view is then God's to blame for everything.
That's what everyone who's not determinist would push back.
Okay,
Everyone
well,
who's not
hang on,
because when the rubber meets the road, that's the reality.
Okay, but blame from our point of view. Okay, when you look at from his point of view, maybe it's not blaming; it's maybe it's grace. When you look, we can look at it from this
three-dimensional.
I like.
Well, I would say more of this.
That'll get some clicks.
Parallel view of how we see the world, but when God's looking from a different perspective.
Different dimension. Oh my goodness, Ben! What'd you do to me?
So good. Just a little long, but so good.
I can't control it, bro.
We got to shorten this up. So I think, are you tracking with me though? Like I think because from his point of view, he can look at something that we look at as terrible or bad and blame, and he's like, well, you can't use the word blame here because I just did so much good for you that you have no idea.
So that's what the pushback would probably be from the determinist.
They'd
all. Well, I don't know, but here's the thing. Like, there's different layers within determinism. Like, do you believe in two wills of God? Like Calvin believed in two different wills of God.
What?
He had his decreative will, and a lot of Calvinists do too. Actually, you have his decreative will, and you have his what's the other one? Oh my goodness, decreative, causative will, or his prescriptive will. Yeah. His decreative, what he's decreed will happen, and his prescriptive will, what he's said should happen, and how men should live. For example, like. A child dies by the hand of an adult, right? That shouldn't happen. That would be his what did I say? Prescriptive will. He prescribes that this is not how it should be. This is not what his desire is. His decreative will would be from the foundation of the world. He had decreed that it happened for a specific reason, which is in the end is to glorify him and to have a plan that involves this happening for a bigger picture. It's probably what they'd push back on.
So in that scenario, the child dying, we would look at it as a horrific situation, right?
Yeah,
but
totally.
But when you look at it from God's point of view, that child is going to be in eternity. You know, he's happier that it happened, right? Like from his standpoint, from God's standpoint,
It depends if you believe in age of accountability or age of innocence. If you believe in the elect being double predestination, that not every child is predestined. It just depends on what your framework is. If you're Calvinistic, they would probably hold to. Again, there's 5 points of Calvinism, and there's 3-point Calvinists. There's 2-point Calvinists.
Yeah, I've heard
4-point. I would argue that if you're not 5, then you're not a Calvinist.
Right.
But Ben, what were you going to say?
I forgot. I forgot. I just this came up because I was trying to not blame God for
because you
bad
said
things in this world.
You said the word blame. That's right. And I'm like, well, what if
You
it's
know,
not blaming God? It's
I get it. I get it. If everything, even what we consider as bad or negative or sad or wrong or evil, if those all worked out for the good of those people, but some things don't, because not everybody's going to heaven.
But
everybody suffered.
So anybody that dies prematurely, they would have had more time to maybe hear the gospel. There's so many.
But what if that suffering is what kept them in that plan, right? Like, what if, God knows if they didn't suffer, then they wouldn't have.
Well, you're talking about now purposeless, meaningful or meaningless suffering is what you're referring to. So is suffering for a reason? Is it meaningful? Is there a reason this is happening, or is it meaningless?
No,
that's for us. Our suffering is meaningful. What about for the non-elect? What about for the non-Christian? Is their suffering meaningful? Because the promise is to us, count it pure joy when you go through trials, tribulation, because it produces X, Y, and Z in us.
Right.
It's not producing that in non-Christians.
Right.
And the reason those things are being produced is because we have the Holy Spirit and he's doing that work in us.
Correct.
They ain't got the Holy Spirit. It's not being done. Nothing's being done to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the idea of God doing things that we see as bad, or wrong or evil, suffering, etc., in this world would only be, it's like a means justifies the end argument, right? Where God's more concerned about the end. So he uses naughty means along the way because the end is good.
Right.
I don't know. Is he then not, there's actually a word for that, but I can't think of it right now. Yeah. So is he then not to blame for the means because the ends are good? Because I agree with you. The ends are great.
Right.
The ends are great. Jesus gets glorified, right? Hey, and guess what? To some degree, I think God does use naughty means because the ends are justified. You know what the best example of that is? Jesus.
Crucified or getting his
He crucified his son.
Yeah.
Because the ends glorified Christ all the more.
For the joy set before him, he endured the cross.
I mean, to that extent,
what a verse.
I'm kind of Calvinist, kind of determinist.
Honestly, I go back and forth to be real.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle. Don't say open theism.
Neutrality's a lie.
I'm in the middle. No, I'm not neutral. I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it's a conglomeration of the two.
Yeah. You go ahead and research Molinism.
I don't want to.
Use the Passion Translation.
I don't want to. No, dude, I listened here. Okay, we talked about this. I listened to a debate with James White and William Lane Craig on Molinism versus determinism.
Actually, it's Molinism versus Calvinism.
Yeah,
Molinism versus Calvinism. Okay, and the whole time it was an hour and a half debate. If they ever hear this,
you my boys.
You guys are. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for doing the hard work.
Thank you for everything you do.
We're not brave enough to do.
The only thing I would say is,
let's critique the guys who do the hard work.
In an hour and a half, neither of them brought up Jesus. Neither of them brought up Christ and that it's all about Christ, whether you're Calvinist or whether you're freaking Molinist. Neither of them said that either of those two mechanisms that we're trying to describe, the mechanism by which God interacts in this reality, is for the purpose of Jesus and his glory. Neither of them said that. It was all a defense of human free will, not blaming God. It was all this philosophical, arguments. And I'm like, how are you guys not talking about that? This is all happening for Christ.
Yeah, it's just nerdy, bro. But honestly, dude, to be honest, and lots of people are going to disagree with me when I say this, who are not post-mill. But the big reason I'm post-mill is because of the Christocentrality of the framework.
The reason I'm not post-mill is because of the Christocentric.
Ness.
Were you trying to copy what I was going to say?
No, that's actually just what I said.
Oh, because I was trying to copy what you were going to say.
Nice. Awesome. I knew that. Yeah. That's what I said. A lot of people disagree with me. I'm just saying I saw in this framework, I saw more Christ than before. And you may not see that. It's fine. In the same way, like Marshall and I doing our podcast the other day, we did one on...
What's your podcast called?
The Average Apologist Podcast.
That's a good title.
Dude, it's the most average podcast you'll ever listen to.
That's a really good title.
Average guys, average
That's
lives,
really
average clothes. Everything's average about us.
Do you wear the same shirt?
I don't actually. This is just a Bennis shirt.
So it's a video podcast? It's like a...
No. It's just an audio.
Okay,
so
okay.
Major
And where can people find
you can
it?
listen
On
to
Spotify?
the
Nice.
Apple Podcasts.
Nice.
Other than that, I know there's more. I just don't know what
And
they
one
are.
more time, what's it called?
The Average Apologist Podcast.
Well, I think to tie this all in, I think what Ben said earlier, like we're trying to understand the mind of Christ, of God, right? Like we're trying to, I think like the way, when I look at this stuff, because a lot of people might listen to this and be like, oh, what does this matter? Or this is too crazy. I don't understand. What are you guys talking about? I think for me, it's a challenge, and it makes me really understand how big God is, and how special and how wondrous He is, and how mighty He is.
Yeah.
And how small I am, right? And how much
Totally.
I need His wisdom
Jesus.
and His grace and His mercy and Jesus.
Yeah.
And that to me is the biggest takeaway of all of these kinds of discussions. And I walk away from this, it's like, oh my goodness, like you're so good, God, and you're so big, and I'm so dumb. And it's so great to have these conversations. And I think that if you're listening to this and this stuff confuses you, I think that don't despair. Don't let the confusion take you onto this path of, you'll never understand and let's just give up. I think what it should do, it should make you more hungry, patient. Right? And because I think God speaks through all this too, and speaks through all of our unknowns, and seek Him more and ask Him and talk to Him, because He is that communal God that comes down and talks to us and is there with us and teaches us things all the time. I'm learning through these conversations and through our laughs and all that. So I'm really thankful for this.
I'm glad you guys are learning something.
We're learning a lot from Ben today.
Oh God, I hope not.
To add to that, man, like I got really good advice from a buddy of mine that lives here locally.
Ben?
No,
not that guy.
No, just kidding. You still in my drink, dude?
I know.
Oh, high noon. Get it? It's great. He's just kidding.
Because you still get paid.
He's like, bro, this is milk.
Still get paid.
This is just whole milk. No, I heard from, because I relate to you, man. Like I am undecided on this because I'm stupid. Because this is a really
you're not
nice dude. Because it's just a really complex thing that I think it's not that I would say this is wrong or that's wrong. I don't know. I lean one way. I hug certain frameworks at certain areas, but overall, it's really complex and really heady and just really philosophical. And not everyone wants to go there, and that's totally fine. I know plenty of people that just like, I just read what the Scripture says. He desires everyone to be saved, and I just receive that. And I'm like, amen. That's great.
You know what I would really love to do? I hope you're done.
Well, the last thing I was going to say, don't lose that.
It's so bad.
It's gone.
No,
it's gone.
You saw it. Okay, but I was going to say, my buddy here locally encouraged me just not to act too quickly. Like, don't just jump the gun on a framework or a certain set of beliefs. Like, really examine, take your time. He knows a guy who went from like, what did he do? It was like Lutheran to or like Calvary to Reform to Catholic. Like he just jumped a lot of things.
That's a lot.
Because he didn't take the time to really just like be patient, take a step back, go, hey, like I'm a creature, I'm finite. I'm lowly. I need to just pray and seek God for wisdom and slowly let him teach me and be moldable and malleable. So I'd encourage anybody to just do that. Just be patient. Take it one day at a time.
Good word, man.
At the same time, had we taken it one day at a time, we would have never started this podcast.
Well, take some things one day at a time. Okay, work out today, man.
That's good input.
Make
That's
your
good
bed
advice.
today.
That's good.
That's good advice.
Really good. Final thoughts?
I really did forget what I was going to say.
Oh my! You said, you know what we should do?
Oh gosh, thank you.
I just had to say, like,
Goodness.
No,
you
really.
know what we should do?
Really? Yeah, you're right.
Stop talking before
Dude,
you
you know
forget
what we
again.
should do?
What?
Thank you. What?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, if anybody knows an expert
ooh.
on these kinds of topics,
Yeah.
like Calvinism,
Yeah.
determinism, Molinism, we've got two guys names we tossed around. James White would be on the determinist
Yeah,
side, the Calvinist side, and William Lane Craig's the other guy.
Anybody from
on the
Apologia
Molinist
Church,
side.
I'd love to talk to
Oh
because
my
I look
gosh.
up to
Yeah,
those guys
tag
so
them,
much.
and point
Yeah,
them to
those-
us.
Ooh, that'd be
Do a
great.
little short, just this, man. Apologia has blessed so many people, including me. I listen to
For sure.
them almost every
Yeah.
day. I love
For
those
sure.
guys. The
They're
cultish
great.
guys too. The whole studio. The whole church.
Did you see that they're starting to talk more about dun, dun, dun,
Starting.
aliens?
No, they've been, bro. I told you this. They've been for years. And
No,
if you
they
ask Jeff Durbin or any of those guys, are going to say, "How long you been talking about this?" And that's how you'll sound. And they'll go, "Long time, bro."
But I have
Are
seen
you
it
done?
more.
That's
Are you
about it.
done?
That's all.
But
Are
I,
you
but
done?
I have seen
Yeah,
it
done.
more often, like lately. I think they took a break
Of course.
or something.
Sure.
But
Of course.
yeah,
Of course.
it's been a lot of people are talking about it. I mean, so is apology thing, whatever.
Apologia.
Yes,
Apologia.
So final thoughts for me.
Final thoughts.
For me are so we got a bunch of followers, new followers from Instagram. Our Instagram is loaded with reposts of things that I find really interesting.
Yeah.
And some of them have gone semi-viral
Yeah.
and we've gotten a lot of followers. So a lot of them might not know why the heck we're talking about this kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay. And the reason we're talking about this stuff, I might actually clip this and put it on the front end. You know, the reason we're talking about this kind of stuff is because even though we find the conspiracies and the alien topics and all of those very interesting, we're all Christian.
Yeah.
And we literally believe that there is a God outside of all of reality and outside of all dimensionality, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, that created all of these layers, that entered into our dimension as Jesus, died on the cross to forgive human sin, save us. We actually believe that. Now, with that worldview and framework in mind, we're also trying to understand what we're posting on our Instagram,
Right.
all the conspiracy theories, all the alien stuff, all the stuff that's actually going on. We're trying to interpret through our Christian worldview because we're seeing it and it's affecting us just as much as it is somebody that doesn't believe the things we do about Jesus and God, right?
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Okay, sorry. I had to breathe.
Yeah, no,
so
that's
that's why
great.
we're talking about this stuff. And it leads into conversations like this,
Yeah.
right? Where
It just gets fun.
where we don't only talk about aliens and conspiracies,
Yeah.
those are coming, but where we talk about how we understand the reality around us and how God's interacting in this reality, you know, because in all reality, let me use that again, all the conspiracies, all the aliens, all the giants, the Nephilim, whatever you want to talk about, is God determining it?
Amen.
Well, I think
See
it
what I
gives
did
us
there?
a
Yeah.
better standing, right, of how we look at these things, right? How we look at what's
Yeah.
happening in this world. Yeah, well said, Ben. Great job with that. I think you should put that on the front end also.
It was actually, I want to say it was Dennis's idea to put this on the front end. So Dennis, that was a great idea. Let's put this on the front end.
Really, it was my idea.
That was your idea, dude. That's so good.
Wrong.
I love it. I like Cam today. Cam's my buddy.
Sorry,
I like tired Ben.
I'm silly today.
It's the moon high nine moon.
It's the high moons. High
High
moons.
noon. You started. I think you finished yours. Started drinking mine,
Yeah, I
dude.
did. 'Cause
Altogether, you've had like a shot and a half now.
Getting paid. High noon. Sponsor for today's video. Just kidding. We're not sponsored, but
That would be really cool, though.
Some-
if
Somebody
High Noon-
wants to. It's obviously not going to be High Noon. High Noon is not sponsoring a conversation on Molinism and Calvinism.
Did you never know?
Hey, why not?
That's true.
They can get
You never know.
break into a new niche. You never know. I mean, you're drinking it.
Yeah, new niche.
Niche.
Why don't we break your niches for not
Niches.
paying us back?
Hey, I heard Nietzsche. Nietzsche. What was I going to say? I was
Niche.
going to say.
Niche.
Dang it, it doesn't work. Never mind. It's fine.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us.
Yes, remember
We love
to
you.
share.
We
and
appreciate
tell your
you.
friends about it. Subscribe. You can subscribe on Instagram also now. We're getting some subscribers on Instagram.
Oh my gosh,
It's
dude,
great.
it's so weird. People are paying
And,
us monthly.
This is amazing. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
I love it.
For our reposts and our stupid.
It's crazy.
Praise
stuff that we
God.
post.
It is. It is. And it's kind of silly because I'm like, what's happening?
God is using
Like
this.
it makes
awesome.
it makes
It's providential,
No, it
man.
makes no sense.
it's
You know,
providential.
some would say
It's
it was determined, and God's, and some would say,
Hashtag
and some would
determinism.
say God is actively causing 58,000 people to subscribe to us. Others would say that God just created people with those proclivities and interests, and the algorithm just pushed them to it, and this is the reality God created.
Well, ultimately, what matters is that Jesus is King, Lord, Savior, Father,
Amen.
friend. He is in everything, all about everything. It's all through Him, for Him, by Him, right? It's all about Jesus, not about the people we speak of, not about the end results even. It's all about Jesus. And that's
Yeah.
what we're here for. And if
Amen.
you want more of that, DM us. We could pray with you, talk to you. We can, ask questions. Ask us anything. We'll try to get an answer for you, or at least we'll tell us
Ooh, yeah.
how we feel
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And
Hey.
especially because, like, I don't know a whole lot. Like, I don't know much about these topics, but I'm sure a lot
What
of people.
topics?
Determinism, Molinism, Arminianism.
Then why you been asking me these hard ass
open
questions?
theism. No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just an average guy.
Yeah,
But
you're not really
see what I did there? Yeah.
Average apologist, aren't you?
Average. I'm a very average apologist. I'm so average.
I like it.
AA.
Very underwhelming, if in that kind of average way,
True.
But there's going to be a lot of people probably out of the people that watch this that know more about this than I do, and I'd love their feedback. Like,
Yeah.
just tell them, hey, you got that wrong. This is actually
Bring
what the
it.
framework is. I'm like, cool.
I
Yeah,
want to
I
ask
love it.
people questions.
Well, listen, if it gets to a point where someone's writing us like some amazing, like substantial information, let's bring them on. Let's have you on.
Oh,
the
yeah, for sure.
podcast. We'll talk to
For
you
sure.
about it, and you could
Yeah.
tell us why we're.
It'd be cool to
stupid.
talk with atheists.
Yes,
so good.
I'd love to. Do
That'd be
that.
fun. I'd love that.
Bring it.
We're gonna do
In
it.
like a really respectful way. Of
course.
Like atheists who wants to dialogue and push back on Christianity from a creation standpoint
Yes.
and irreducible complexity and morality and stuff like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we'll give you the platform. Like,
get
just
on.
talk. And tell us, and we'll all learn from each other.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for joining us on Menace the Menace
Have a great
for
night.
another episode. And we're out.
Dennis, this is how I feel when you guys make jokes. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. Y'all talked about this before, and I'm just now coming in.
Is that what happens a lot? Oh, I'm
I
sorry,
feel that
Cam.
way. Hey, it's okay. I'm that way. Like with Marshall at work, we make everybody feel that way. So I'm happy to be on this side.
You have a
In
name-
fact,
you have
I
a-
prefer it.
You have a
If
guy
you're
named-
thirsty on a hot day, High Noon
Shing.
sponsored
Oh.
this episode, and
was like, what
we
are you
need to.
Is that
I'm
why you
kidding.
want
Yeah.
me to drink one?
Yes,
it's
I'm
good
just
though,
kidding.
right?
it's very
It's
good.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I'm
What's
sorry,
your
I
favorite
burped.
one, Cam?
Oh, I honestly, man, if I'm gonna drink, I wouldn't drink this. But I don't like vodka.
We just lost our sponsor.
I'm sorry. No. I'm
I was gonna send us a high mood
Hold
after
on.
we were done.
what? Let me rephrase that because I'm not saying this is bad. I actually think it's freaking delicious.
Natural flavors, 2 grams of sugar,
2.66 grams. Come on, dude, you got 2.6.
6 grams.
Now 0.6 matters. No, I just mean like if I'm gonna drink, it's gonna be like mezcal or Fernet Branco or wine like you're drinking or a beer. But more often not a beer. This I'd actually drink before beer because there's less sugar. I'm kind of trying to watch the shug.
I would take a White Claw over that.
Never had one.
Have you had High Noons? By the way,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
cut all this out. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
Have
said-
you've had
said
High
that,
Noons?
dude? I don't even believe you when you say that. You've said that so many times, and I'm like, oh, it's in there.
What?
He's like, oh yeah, we won't put that in there. I want
I
you to
know.
cut that out, and I'm like, it's in there.
Yeah, He either forgets
Always-
or he's just lying to us straight up.
Always keep them guessing.
You need to have a video that's just of material you've promised to take out.
I can do that.
Oh, that would be so good.
I can do that.
Every single cut would be like, I promise to take this out.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but
No, I won't put this in there, guys.
It
Dude,
would
that's
be
a
like-
great idea, Cam.
It would be a lot of farts.
Oh, yeah.
100% from you, though.
Yes.
A lot of my farts. A lot of my farts.
No.
And in
All
my
of
head, and in my head, I tell myself, I'm going to take that out.
Do you mark it? You're like, no, I'll remember.
Yeah,
Oh, he marks it.
it's marked.
It's marked, man.
It's just my wife does my laundry,
that's
so
right.
Oh,
she erases all my marks.
Hopefully
Those are
you
the
don't
marks.
have the ones with the hole in it, because then
Still-
it's going straight
you-
to the other
still
side, dude.
You still wear whitey tighties, man? You don't go with colors?
Still, what do you mean?
Genius.
Well,
People stopped wearing those?
Oh, what? What? You guys? Man, where am I? What
I'm
tighties
going to
do
be
you-
honest with you, man. I wasn't a whitey tighty kid. I stopped wearing them like probably 6 years old, maybe earlier.
Wow.
And I went to boxer brief, and I went to boxers first, and then I was like, these are dumb. And then now I'm athletic boxer briefs, like Under Armour.
What are these?
Those are boxer briefs.
Wow, you're like
'Cause
bougie
they're-
boxer base.
They're
So,
snug.
Yours
so I
are-
went.
I think
So I
yours
got
is a thong.
I got, yeah, it's pink. It's pink.
Oh man, no, we're
This is
learning a lot
comfortable.
tonight. I go
Menace the Menace. Hey, Menace the Menace merch. Cameron's wearing the G.
It has Bennett's the alien on it. Those
the
are fine.
Menace.
It's the alien
He's got menace on the front.
on the front. Hey, on the hammock. On the hammock, it says Menace.
Is that how you call it? A hammock?
The front part, the banana hammock.
Yeah,
Banana hammock.
banana
Okay.
hammock.
You should know that living in Florida.
So
You see a
well,
lot of those, I bet.
I'm learning. I do see a lot of banana hammocks.